Does that work?
Mhm. Sure.
And
Okay,
Claire,
we're going live.
how long do we have? An hour? Right.
I'm just going to start recording.
Welcome to Digital Fashion Week. I am super excited to be discussing with these amazing speakers that we have today, conversations around emerging tech, fashion, and the future of fashion shows. It'll encompass beauty, models, body image, and much, much more. And Claire, are we good to go?
Just give me 2 seconds.
Are we taking questions at the end?
No, because
right?
everything is, the audience is entirely in the
Okay.
Metaverse.
All right. No worries.
Okay. You're good to go. Thank you so much for your patience. Nova, take it away.
All right, amazing. Welcome to Digital Fashion Week. We are so excited to see fashion go digital, or phygital, should I say. We have an incredible panel of speakers here with us today to discuss the emerging tech and its impact on the future of fashion shows. And I'm super excited to dive into all the talking points. And we're just going to jump right in. We're going to start with intros from our speakers. And when you introduce yourself, if you could also answer this question. Oh, let me introduce myself. Yeah, let me do that. Let's start there. I'm No Lorraine. I'm your moderator today. I am an award-winning fashion designer. I just recently accepted the first inaugural Metaverse Champion Award, which is really exciting. Also a top 100 woman of the future. And I will say, I didn't realize this but until recently, but I'm actually a futurist. I've always been interested in the future and been covering the future of fashion, culture, and tech for the last 15 years with Rain magazine. And I'm currently the chief metaverse architect for Lore, L-O-R-R. And it's a hyper-realistic metaverse world providing solutions around access, sustainability, and interoperability. And so beyond me being a super geek and nerd around all things Web3, I am super passionate about sharing the education and knowledge about this space so we can, just clarify any questions that people may have, but also open the door and be a gateway for individuals to be a part of this new paradigm shift. So now I'm going to pass the mic to our panelists. And the question is, how is the metaverse putting its mark on Fashion Week? And so I'm just going to have ladies first, and whichever one of our ladies wants to start speaking, and introduce yourself, and then please answer the question.
Sure. I'm Dale Noel. I am the founder and owner of True Model Management and True Intermedia. And we've been managing the careers of professional models in the physical world in all shapes and sizes and ethnicities way before body positivity and diversity and inclusion were trending. And we have had body scanning machine in our office for almost a decade and been thought leaders and pioneers of bringing digital assets to the fashion world. So we've beta tested a lot of different programs, starting way back when I personally did consulting for companies for fitting and try-on, starting in the 1990s. And now we're just so happy that the needle was pushed forward during COVID, that everyone started calling in and they're finally ready for the digital world. And I thank Claire and you for being pioneers in this and inviting us to have an open platform, because for many years we've just been talking quietly one-on-one with clients, and we're here to educate and have discussions about it. So feel free to reach out anytime, and thank you again.
Yeah, amazing.
Oh, and the question, you wanted to know how the Metaverse is marking Fashion Week. Well, for models, for pioneering models in the space, they are working with the cutting edge technology and setting the stage for models to leverage their likeness and to license their looks and bodies and parts for many different things. They can be in virtual runways as well as physically on the runway. They're being hired for their digital selves for lookbooks and e-commerce. There's tons of content creation and brand ambassadorship And we haven't done it yet, but we're looking forward to NFTs. I'm sure there's great people on the panel to collaborate on this. Yeah, there's a long way to go, but it's a great start. And we're all working together to make it more inclusive and immersive for the world. So their 3D imagery can be seen all across multiple platforms.
Thank you so much. I love that. And especially the points you shared around the likeness of the models being licensed, right? That opens up a whole new realm of possibilities, not only for the brands, but also for the models themselves. And then we know with the, the addition of social media, there are a lot of influencers and celebrities that are modeling. And so what does that mean for them? So that's going to be a really interesting shift in the industry as we see that continue to grow. So thank you so much. All right. Who else wants to take the mic?
I'll jump in because it probably feeds right into Dale. So I am Nicole Reeder. I'm the CEO and founder of Modern Mirror. So I got into this space about 16 years ago when I was in the fashion industry and was a stylist and visual merchandiser. My clients didn't want to go in the fitting room. And so I said, well, if I create something like a hologram of yourself, and I didn't come from technology, I said, and you can actually see yourself and see how the clothing looks on you. And it's actually, it's actually you moving. Would you use it? And they said, oh yeah, we would use that in store. Oh, but not that e-commerce stuff. We don't trust our credit card online. So that was how long ago I was in this. So I have seen so much come through, and it's absolutely amazing to see how this industry has just transitioned and how we've built it, this amazing fashion tech world, and now fashion web 3.0. So it's amazing. But just to go back, what we do at Modern Mirror is really, first and foremost, we're a virtual try-on company that's for in-store as well as for online purposes, where people go in, they get 3D imaged in 1.5 milliseconds. It's that fast. And they capture hundreds of images and measurements of you with a 0.5 millimeter accuracy, and we capture your motion. So then when you come out, then we create a 3D body model of you and can virtually try on clothing as well if we've digitized the clothing for you. And we go in and literally digitally stitch. We don't scan the clothing, we digitally stitch it all on. So we know exactly how it's going to fit, how it's going to wear, how it's going to move. However, we've had an amazing and incredible transition into digital modeling and such. For example, like Dale and True Model Management, where there are agencies and there's celebrities and now athletes and wanting to be 3D imaged. And so it's really about as well taking this to a different level now, especially with the Metaverse platforms. And what we're seeing as well on how Metaverse is making its mark in fashion is we're seeing a crossover. So because we're fashion and we're also really capturing the true realism of a person and all their images and their movements and everything else, this can be taken into a whole different as well realm and direction with different applications. But now these athletes that are wanting to get into the fashion worlds and the fashion that wants to embrace the athletes and the sporting and the gaming and such, everything's an amazing crossover. So that's really how we've embraced the Metaverse. Is at Modern Mirror, we look at ourselves as the following. We are the utility vehicle. There's a gold rush happening, and we are the utility vehicle to help everybody get to that gold rush. And we also supply them with a pair of Levi's jeans while they're on the bus. While they're on the bus. You want to take it and look at it that way? That's how I explain it. So,
I love it.
So we're not creating a Metaverse platform. What we are is that utility to help. And as Dale had mentioned, help be able to take people's data and be able to utilize it in different platforms so that it's not just a single asset. And and then be able to help these athletes, celebrities and such own their data, models own their data, and be able to license that out in order to create revenue streams for them.
Yeah, I mean, personalization is huge, right? As one of the components that this technology is going to impact. So appreciate what you're doing with Modern Mirror. I've heard been following you guys for a while. And it's also good to know, like, there's more people in the room that's been around since Web 1, Web 0, right? Love that. And my next lady on the mic.
Thank you. So my name is Ruxandra Duame, and I am part of the Open Innovation team at Farfetch. At Farfetch, within this team, we are working with best-in-class startups to develop growth opportunities through strategic innovation partnerships. Before being at Farfetch, I was at Burberry for some time, where I was working in their e-commerce team and also in their 3D transformation team. So in terms of answering the question, which is an excellent question, by the way, I'll start by sharing a few thoughts from what I've seen recently, and then a couple of ways in which the Farfetch Open Innovation Team supports the startup ecosystem that underpins this topic. So first of all, Fashion Weeks are moments in time where culture and trends are being shaped for the upcoming season at minimum, and dare I say, sometimes for decades, as fashion history is being written. These undertakings are instrumental, in my view, because they constitute the grand reveal of the work of months and months of product design and development. They are considered key moments within the fashion calendar and represent an opportunity for the creative director to engage through his work with not only the press and the buyers and the industry voices, but also with the end consumer through these orchestrated runway shows, which bring forward the seasonal collections and reinforce the direction of travel for the brand. Now, on the other hand, the metaverse is yet another scene on which creators, communities, and brands can shine light upon such pieces and come together to experience and enjoy the gifts of their imagination. So, in my eyes, the metaverse is really a new social space, which is breaking away from the barriers of this flat experience into something more immersive and experiential, which is really what fashion has always tried to achieve through their runway shows and their showcasing events. So the goal was always to bring the product to life in an evocative manner, right? Now, the way of experiencing this performance is either by being present at the shows, which is tricky, obviously, to have everyone there, or by viewing the two-dimensional content that is being produced. Therefore, I believe that first and foremost, the metaverse has the potential to take the expression of such creative vision to the next level, opening up new content dimensions and aiding that immersive experience of the product. And it can help reach broader audiences and interested communities in the comfort of their own home or whilst being on the go, which is very important. A couple of additional benefits arise. I think compared to the other more type of traditional flat content, which I was referencing earlier, a metaverse experience also allows users to interact in real time with the brand, the products, or the community, which is, of course, a much more engaging manner to bring the season's narrative to life. And another benefit, which I wanted to state, is product availability, at least for the usage within the metaverse, or through augmented reality, because as we know, there's usually a relatively lengthy lead time between the physical product being exhibited at fashion shows and in-store availability for purchase. This is due to the fact that obviously the products that are being part of a specific collection need to be manufactured and distributed in the months that follow. The digitization of products can hopefully reduce this type of standard timeline and its associated waiting time, and offer customers a much more instantaneous experience in that regard. And I know there are quite a few startups which are also Farfetch Open Innovation partners, such as 3DM or DressX, that have had some amazing developments in this realm, positioning themselves at the intersection between the world of atoms and the world of bytes, and enabling the fashion industry to venture into the metaverse. This space is very exciting, and we are continuing to support the Web3 ecosystem via the Dream Assembly Startup Accelerator, which is organized in partnership with Outlier Ventures. And we have actually recently commenced the application period for cohort 2. So it's a good timing. We are inviting the interested startups to apply and tune in via the Farfetch Open Innovation group on LinkedIn to hear more of these news. Yeah, exciting times, I think.
Yeah, very exciting times. And I love how poetic you were describing fashion and its imprint on history, and how these fashion shows are so integral in telling this story, this snapshot, of how we're capturing our culture around the world through these shows, and how the metaverse can offer more access to this, right? And then a more immersion and engagement to the brand, for the brands and the designers to reach these audiences and new audiences. So I was just being lulled by the poetry. So
Yeah, I think it's just such an exciting time, for fashion and tech and gaming, like as industries. I'm truly confident that we see more and more innovation and synergies that come to life as these are working closer and closer together. So yeah, you're right. Like it's just a transformative period.
absolutely. And when we talk about bringing these innovations forward, you need support, right? It takes a lot of time, energy, and financial resources. So to be a platform for startups and innovators is pretty incredible as well. So thank you for that. I'm going to pass the mic to last but not least, definitely not least. David, would you like to share more about you and answer the question? And how is the metaverse putting its mark on fashion weeks?
Yes, and thank you for that, Nova, for reiterating the question. It's been a second. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Claire, et al. It's a pleasure, and to be included with such lovely panelists as well. My name is David Cash. I am a Web3 evangelist first and foremost. I'm also the founder and managing director of a Web3 agency called Cash Labs. We're an innovation agency that provides full stack solutions for principally Fortune 500 companies, a few leading artists in the Web3 space as well. We've been working for the past 2 years on hundreds of different activations, ranging from a ton of NFT drops, a ton of Metaverse activations. We had the pleasure of working with Decentraland last year on creating the first ever Metaverse Fashion Week in Decentraland, which was also a pleasure and a really great opportunity. It's about to happen again in March. And now, we're seeing a ton of digital fashion weeks, being a really integral part of the fashion industry, which is really exciting. Speaking to this question and speaking to what we do as well, it's really interesting to see how things have developed. I know that, we were doing virtual fashion weeks before we were working in the metaverse, as just videos of fashion weeks. And that was really cutting edge and that was crazy. And we have the pleasure of one of our clients, Show Studio. And I know they've been, digitizing fashion weeks since the very, very beginning. And it's really amazing to see how it goes from the idea of live streaming being, taking photos and posting those on the internet. I think Nick says always every 24 seconds or something, they could take one image and post that to the internet, to now, being able to, like last year, having Dolce & Gabbana doing a fashion show in the metaverse and, having this being a completely digital experience. We've gone so far in terms of where it went and, where it was and where it is now, in terms of the industry. So I think that's really exciting. But in terms of our goals and what we're really working on in the space at Cash Labs, we're really set right now during this bear market, during this time of growth and building. We really see the goal of most companies being figuring out the way to do things correctly in order to onboard the next billion, next 2 billion people into this space in a way that's holistic, in a way that's not flash in the pan, in a way that's sustainable, and that people can actually integrate these technologies from virtual fashion to just tenets of Web3 and crypto, and being able to understand what a wallet and what owning an asset is. Really just going through this process of onboarding. That's really our goal. And as an agency, we really want to help onboard this next billion people into Web3. And we really see fashion brands and consumer brands and e-commerce solutions being the path to that. They have the consumer's eyes, and we have the pleasure of working with brands like Farfetch, like several other Fortune 500s, in the space, who are entering and doing things, in a really holistic, long-term manner. And that's really where our focus is right now. So really excited to be here. And in answer of the question, extending that, I think that the metaverse is definitely putting its mark on fashion. Anytime we're talking about the metaverse versus, traditional fashion industries, I always like to consider the conversation of people think that the metaverse or gaming detracts from an experience. It takes you out of the real world. And I usually like to pose a contradictory, point of view to that by saying the metaverse and virtual spaces can really add a lot to an experience. So we should consider, especially with the evolution of technologies, where things are going, where we're moving towards more of an augmented reality, an extended reality, where we have glasses or a phone or a hologram or something where, technology is eventually going to be interacting in live spaces. We should stop considering virtual tech as a detraction from real life, but more as an addition to real life. So I love seeing fashion shows that, really integrate technology in beautiful ways, that, integrate poetry and art and fashion and beauty to new levels, integrating AR and integrating technology and integrating extended experiences that would be impossible otherwise. So that's what really excites me. I love seeing brands taking, new risks and, using technology to their advantage to create things that have never been seen before. And I think that's really what the potential of the metaverse, especially since the pandemic, since most of us have spent so much more time online. I think it's been really beautiful to see how this technology has also pushed us forwards in terms of our creativity. So
I
leave it at
love
that.
it. And I can absolutely echo that you are an evangelist. Like the
I
energy
love
was
it. I
coming
love
through the
it.
screen. I love it. I love it. And some of the words that you shared, sustainability, long-term, holistic, these are all really important terms that we need to consider and keep at the forefront, especially now having gone through this tumultuous time, 2022, is that, brands and designers and creators really need to look at this new space we're in the long term. This is a long game. It's not a short game being created out of FOMO or hype. And we've seen that. We've seen the result of that. So, and then also holistic approaches. And I think this is a great transition into the next question in terms of models. And I know, Dale, you had touched on this, which I'm excited to talk about as well, is what are the opportunities for models, and this is popcorn style from here on out. So if you feel that burning desire inside to like, beep, 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 just jump in and answer the question. But I want to direct it back to Dale. I know you had touched on a little bit about IPs and likeness and all of that. If you could expand more on these opportunities for models.
Yeah, sure. Well, as models foray into the metaverse, it will offer many cutting edge opportunities. And right now, it's just the infancy stages, and there are opportunities because brands are tightening their budgets. They're receiving less sponsorship for shows. And since all the reasons that everyone talked about, we're finding ways that models and their digital twins can help the companies save money, create some of their own digital assets. And with a model who has an avatar, they can be working in multiple places at the same time. If their body changes or their face changes or their look changes, they can still be licensing and sharing their original likeness with people and companies around the world. Parts of models are being licensed out. They might love a hairdo, and a designer or someone wants to copy that. We're working, and Nicole Reeder from Modern Mirror touched on, some of the legalities of ownership in the IP, and I feel like everyone needs to come together that is in the space already and push the needle forward to protect all this IP, and everyone needs to own it. And I'm sure one of you could take that farther, probably Nicole. But once the ownership is properly owned, that's when you transfer files to clients and brands, and depending on anything can happen and anything goes. We have creative people in the industry, if they want to do something with a model or a likeness, as long as everyone's in agreement, they can do. In TikTok, they're already doing it for experiences with AR. We've had models, avatars trying on clothes with different technology, and in e-commerce and the fit try-ons. It started pretty much with the production fitting for us, where they would scan models' bodies and they would have a physical mannequin form of their body. They'd have an avatar of the model's body and the model in real life, so they could prove concept and show where the fabric was draping. And they'd work with companies to help them increase their library and help their AI learn more. So models have been working on the back end, a lot that you don't see. It was before the metaverse and everything was really public. That's how I was invited to the conversation in the very early 90s. I was a successful model, and major corporations, a couple of them wanted to scan my body. So I got invited to all those meetings where they're testing and looking, and it started with like, okay, well, now we don't have to look at it on you to see the placement of a logo or something like that. And most people in the industry, and especially the models, fear that it'll take their job away. But we're finding that over the last couple of decades, models aren't completely losing jobs. They might be getting more accounts and working less for each one if they decide to make less production samples, which I fully support and many people in the world do for sustainability reasons. But they still want models for the look and feel and uniqueness. So it's really becoming a tool and assets for the models and the brands alike. And I think that it's, you know, there's so much more that's happening every day. It's changing. So we have to keep up on all the latest and keep collaborating and educating people. Yeah, and you can put models in any type of immersive experience now. You know, I was just at the restaurant, the Journey, the other day, and they have, you know, round walls with a 360 experience. Like the actors were there in France, you know, and your Eiffel Tower's behind you while you're eating dinner. You know, they do the same thing in fashion shows now. So they're saving money on, you know, locations and fees in many other ways. And if they license models, they can use them in all different platforms as well.
I appreciate that thorough answer. And yeah, I can imagine Nicole has some things that she wants to share as well. And anyone else, Roxandra and David, jump in. You know, when you were sharing models, you know, the first thing people think about is the runway model, right? Like that's the most visible model. But then you have fit models. And for those that aren't familiar with the industry, brands hire individuals with a certain body type that suits their muse. And then they scale the garments based on that model's body type. So to the point that you brought up, Dale, and as it relates to, if you're a fit model, this is your job, this is your livelihood. And for whatever reason, your body changes. And you know, what's going to happen to your job? But if you're able to use technology like Modern Mirror, and you're able to capture that, you know, those measurements and bring that into a 3D environment, then you can still have those garments, you know, measured on you virtually. So that's something to think about as well. And then would love anyone else to share. I'm just like all these ideas when you know, the hologram technology, you have AI where, you know, there's what's called the deep Tom Cruise, but you can also take the likeness of the model and create narratives with the model's permission. So again, she could be working, but still be in her bedroom, right? Collecting money through her AI avatar, either as a spokesmodel, a promotional model, and or having her digital likeness animated on a runway. So we'd love for anyone else to jump in and give your thoughts on how models are going to be impacted.
I'll jump in here really quick. So a couple of things. We actually did something for a big, I can't disclose the brand, but it's a big luxury brand. And so that we had done it for, and they wanted their models, you know, 3D image, motion captured. We did that. They wanted their garments 3D digitized. We created the garments and we created a whole 3D virtual scene for them. And then these assets now they can continue to use. So even though they've put it on one project, now they can take these pieces of it and utilize it in different ways, not just through a VR headset and a virtual reality experience, right? And so that's, you know, that's where as well, to touch upon with Dale and the models, this is how they can be licensed over and over and over again. But I think the biggest thing, there's two big factors when we're talking about this that's really important. I know I'm not getting into the cool, sexy stuff about the tech, but when it really comes to it, the time is now, and I keep saying that the time is now for models, the athletes, the celebrities, and even general people to go out, and I'm not promoting us, I'm saying there's so many other companies out there, but to go and start owning your data, go and start researching, go and invest, just like you would go and invest in your portfolio or your brand or what. This industry for digital humans, whether it's digital models, digital humans, however you want to look at it, digital athletes, is predicted to be it's going to be a $530 billion industry plus by 2030. Everyone will have a digital self of some sort or an avatar of themselves. So this is the time now, especially it's kind of, I look at it as kind of it's the next step. You know, everyone went out and now invested in the past in their Instagram, they invested in their TikToks, go and start investing in your actual self and identity. And the reason why I say that is now don't get me wrong, I love AI. We use AI. Now, but we use AI in different ways, and that's for our automation of our pipeline. However, we're getting into a tricky situation right now with AI, especially with 2D photos, where certain things, so I'm not suggesting there's certain companies or whatnot, but you know, there is talk of how models' identities or their visuals are being scraped off the internet, those photos. And then virtual models are made. Now, I have an issue with that. I do have an issue with these CGI models and the virtual models making $8,000 a post when our actual models need to work. Why are we not trying to spread the revenue? Like, why are we not trying to help our actual, how do I say it? Our actual models, our actual talent And
Right.
so to digitize, and so that's what I'm trying to get to put the message out there is before we see AI take on to 3D, everyone go get your data, go get scanned or whatever you want to do, but go and own your digital self, start branding that out there and take control of your data and your IP because it's your data. It's no one should be selling it on your behalf or licensing it or giving it out. You should set the tone. You should set the standard of who gets to see it, when they get to see it, when it gets delayed off a system, and that it does get, and that it doesn't need to be scraped. And how do we tag that and prevent that from happening? AI is an amazing tool, but how do we not let it affect our talent? And so actually I'm at the Super Bowl this week. We were asked to come down to the Super Bowl. So, to go and start scanning the athletes, the NFL players, the rappers, you name it. I just was up till 2 a.m. scanning an amazing rapper. He's like, yeah, get me imaged right now. I'm owning this data and I'm going to license it out myself and take control. And then they say, well, we want to see the crossover. We want to get into more fashion. We want to be able to be on the runway and we want to get ourselves into the metaverse. And so just from that perspective, it can even extend past it. But for our models right now, that's what I'm very, and our digital, our talent, very focused on going, go get yourself 3D image, go protect yourself. And just aware.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that falls under the umbrella of ethics and regulations, right? And we're still so early in the space, and the majority, we're in that bubble, right? We're drinking the Kool-Aid. Most individuals are still trying to catch up to what some of this terminology even means. And so, events like this, providing the access to the education so you could take that first step. But yeah, I do think that, and thank you, Dale and Nicole, for bringing this up. IP is going to continue to be a hot topic moving forward as it relates to likeness, as relates to bringing that into digital form, bringing that into AI. And one of the ways that you can get ahead of it, especially if you are a personality, is to, as Nicole was suggesting, do your research, learn about the space, and see how you want your likeness, if at all, to be integrated into this new space. But it starts with learning, it starts with education and asking questions and going to trusted resources to do that. So thank you so much for bringing that up. I often say we're day 1 of 10,000 in terms of where we are on this adventure of Web3. And so it's right now, everyone's playing. They're getting to know the tools, they're learning about it, they're playing with it. But I think it's critical that ethics, safety, security, privacy are all conversations that are just as prevalent as the conversation around the tech. So thank you so much for bringing that up. David, it looked like you had something to say. Did you want to jump in?
Absolutely. I was just loving the direction that this is going in. I think that, everything that's been stated thus far is spot on. Really, I think it comes down to an idea, just like you mentioned, of IP and ownership in Web3 versus Web2, in the differentiation, there we go, between, having a company own data for you on your behalf versus you owning data for yourself. And it is a bit of a mental shift that we all have to go through. And, there's a lot of very unsexy ways to put it. But ultimately, I really like how Nicole is, voicing this idea to really own your identity. I have a friend who has a great company, and she calls them, DID, decentralized IDs. So she has like big did energy instead of, so you really got to own your IDs. We're trying to find fun ways to like packages for people. I think this is really important, especially when it comes to models and people who make a living off of their, their identity and the way that they look, which is really important. Not to keep bringing up Show Studio, but we did a lovely project with Nick Knight and the model Ugly Worldwide, Giselle, and they released a ton of NFTs with Giselle as the model of all of them. And, this was kind of one of these instances where, Giselle was able to be put in thousands of different, unique outfits. And a lot of them were virtual. I think almost all of them were virtual, something that would physically be incredibly taxing to do. So this is one of these beautiful examples where you can take something like a digital scan. They did one digital scan of her. And then, they spent months putting her in an incredible number of outfits that were, would be physically incredibly difficult, to achieve this type of a photo shoot. It might take months. Right. So I think these are some of these really beautiful opportunities that arise in this space when we start considering, again, the potential of these technologies if we really want to use them to our advantage. But also, I do love basing this in a space of, I know this is kind of where the conversation is going, but in terms of IP and ownership, because really, I've been involved in crypto for a long time. I first got into Bitcoin in 2014. I minted my first NFT in 2019. The core tenets of what that world is about. And, again, we've evolved a lot, and I don't think we need, to call every digital asset an NFT. I don't think we need to be so technical all the time, but a lot of these core tenets that have been in the space from the beginning are there for a reason. Like, don't trust, verify, make sure you have control over your assets. These are really core ideas. And a lot of the time when we see problems arise in this space, or when we see, the headlines of why things went wrong, it's usually because these kinds of like core tenets were ignored. And, people, let somebody else control their assets on their behalf, or, often one company is controlling an incredible amount of assets and then something crashes. But, if everybody just, had some means of owning their own identity, or having a trusted source to own their, identity and their assets, everything would change. So, I like to think of things in broad terms when we're,
I like that.
but I love this conversation.
Yeah, and for those that are here and still new to the space, just to give some more clarification, when social media launched, or let's go even further back, when websites were a thing, right? Email addresses, everyone went to start claiming their email, so someone else wouldn't claim it. And how mad would you be if you went to claim your email, first and last name, and it was gone? You're like, what? So similarly with websites, then it was like, well, claim your website. If it's Mary Smith, go get marysmith.com. If it's Instagram, get Mary Smith, at Mary Smith on Instagram. So this is a similar premise. This is really just the future of the internet, the future of how we're going to be engaging digitally. May it be through entertainment, may it be through commerce, or maybe through education. And so when you think of identity, and it may seem a little vague when you hear the terms avatar and digital twin and your your AI identity or what have you, but think about it back as when you're claiming your .com, you're claiming your @Gmail, your @Yahoo, Hotmail for those that started off with Hotmail. And so this is the next step in terms of this more immersive 3D world that we're moving into. And I would say the explanation point on this, when we're talking about models, this is your livelihood. And I think what's so important about the technology, especially with AI, is to learn about it so you stay ahead of it. You're holding the reins as opposed to being pulled by it and controlled by it. So it's so important that as the space evolves, and it is moving so quickly, that you just get educated or have, like, again, follow a trusted source, speak to a trusted source, so you keep up on how you can continue to sustain yourself as the space moves forward. So I love that. Thank you so much. Something that came to mind, I was just saying, like with models and some opportunities, and I love the Giselle example as well. Also the example with the football players wanting to be in fashion shows, like in the metaverse, like, hey, why not, right? That I think it's that access that you're given and the potential to earn residual income well after you went to work. So again, going back to models, if you and a lot of models may age out of the industry, then what? They're not typical employees with your 401ks and your insurance plans and all of this. They're independent contractors. They're creative entrepreneurs is what I call them. So what is that longevity plan for those individuals or athletes or celebrities? And so if you're able to create this digital asset where it can work for you on your behalf with your identity, your IP, that's another opportunity for models as well. So I just want to touch on that. I think as we move forward, and we've mentioned, I heard Decentraland, and there's of course Roblox, and then there's Minecraft, and we've seen what Burberry did there, and we're seeing the term self-expression come up more and more. And in these gaming environments, you're buying skins, you have powers, and now in these metaverse environments, it's your digital twin as opposed to a character that you're using in the gaming environment. And it's still very animated. It's cartoon-like, it's blocky like Legos. But now we're moving into this hyper-realism phase of Web3 and the metaverse, where things are hard to discern. Is this real? Or is this created as a fictional environment or object or individual, right? Where we talk about these fictional models competing now with real models. And so as we get more hyper-realistic, my question is, what are some issues that we're going to need to keep an eye out for or deal with as it relates to mental health? And how can we get ahead of that? What can we consider as it relates to that?
Well, I think it's all the people that are involved in the space, because we've come so far in the physical world as far as body positivity and acceptance, and especially in the modeling industry, some of the mental issues and mental health issues that are on the forefront are like eating disorders, body dysmorphia, anxiety, depression. And we found that at first it used to be the magazines having these perfect photoshopped bodies and airbrushed and make them look perfect. And everyone was trying to aspire to look like that. And most of them were not attainable. And now we have went to, our models were in the Air Reveal campaigns. And when Dove came out with their ads, and everyone's like, okay, great, no more Photoshop. I'm going to accept how I am. I'm a larger size, I'm shorter, and I'm older, I have wrinkles. Don't wipe them all out, because we're all unique and there's beauty in everyone. And now it seems like we're reverting back a little bit. And I feel like we just have to catch it before we go too far. You see the CGI avatars that Nicole was talking about, and David mentioned that most of them are futuristic and or animated, and the body proportions are not, they're more off than the Barbie was, so we support True Model Management has always been about authentic self and true beauty, and our avatars for the most part are this is the model's choice because they own their IP, but we try to make them photorealistic and hyper realistic, and shows all their uniqueness, not whitewashes them out so they just look computer generated. And we find that even the companies that are making the avatars, they are taking some features from real people. So I think it's a great point that you and Nicole also that they get credit for it if someone's copying their nose or something about that. But I think it's going to be dependent on the leaders in the industry and then also the consumers. We have a voice now that everything's online and public. So if we, AI and all augmented reality is great and futuristic, but keep a real component too, instead of bringing everything from physical to virtual. It's like bringing the real life into the virtual. So in the games, I'd love to see exactly what I look like playing and dressing up in like 10 outfits while I'm playing, and I get to have self-expression that way. And maybe I can't fit into every outfit off the shelf, but online I can, so it's up to the person how they want to express themselves. And I just hope it doesn't go too skewed to this crazy that people in real life are trying to look like the animated perfect, avatars with so much cosmetic surgery and everything. People are starting to look more alike and more cartoon-like. So I hope we just control the pendulum and not swing too far.
Yeah, no, I appreciate those comments, and both touching on some of the issues that exist around body imaging, but then also offering ideas on how you can use these same tools for positive self-expression, right? And you can be anything you want to be. It could be a pink kangaroo, or a blue bunny rabbit.
Exactly.
Taller or shorter, like why not? And we see
you can take more risks online that you might not in real life and build confidence through that. And hopefully the confidence they build online, they'll take with them out to the real world.
That's right. And I think part of it too is just having the conversation. As you mentioned, we have a voice. We can create communities. We can create decentralized organization around these conversations, right? How to, again, we talked about ethics and protecting our ownership of data and our digital identity, but then also how do we protect ourselves? How do we protect our well-being? And having these communities and conversations that are engaging with brands and companies to make sure that they're building these, aspects into, if it's the game or if it's the world or what have you. I think it's just an important thing to keep at the forefront, because it does exist in the world of fashion. This is the problem that we've been trying to combat for a long time. And we have made progress. I love how you kind of took us through history and where we are now. So thank you so much. And I want to make sure we get a chance to cover these last couple of questions. What are your favorite use cases as relates to this space? And then we'll jump into that last question. And then feel free to talk about AR, VR, the metaverse, these tools and how they're being used as relates to the use cases.
I can jump in here, maybe. So I think beyond what was mentioned, it is worth noting that there is an opportunity for brands and models to create these beautiful campaigns in a way that could be hopefully be a bit more sustainable, reducing the impact of traveling for production purposes. So in the past, for instance, we have created a low carbon brand and marketing campaign, and we partnered with DressX to render the digital pieces on models, and with 3DM to digitally render the accessories, which meant that we were able to create an entire campaign without shipping an entire sample. So I think the change that comes about with digitization, and especially 3D digitization, can constitute a way to be more efficient and less impactful towards our planet, reducing the need for this distributed talent and product to be present in the same geographical location. And of course, the constraints that come with physicality. I think obviously more parallel work can be produced. It can increase the output for the models, as you guys mentioned before. And there are a lot of possibilities for artistic expression. I think that, like in terms of let's consider hairstyle, and because I know one of the topics that we wanted to mention was beauty. I think there are a number of possible variants where what we can do in real life without, because only a fraction of those are actually reversible, right? So through the iterative nature of the digital product, I think we can achieve more endless experimentation in a much shorter time span. And it can very well constitute, like a preview of our future image in real life. So I think it's a way to experiment with a new look. And I wanted to touch upon virtual try-on as well, because we mentioned AR. And as we launched and we expanded in beauty, we also launched virtual try-on. So this is a feature which allows customers to try on different shades of lipsticks through augmented reality. And for that, our Open Innovation team has facilitated the partnership with WANA, which is a best-in-class startup operating in the VTO space that eventually became part of the Farfetch group. So WANA, they're also supporting other categories such as sneakers and watches, VTO. And they have recently developed a 3D viewer feature for the leather goods category. So I think these technologies are not only experience-led, but are also very much focused on to problem solving for different pain points within the customer experience. So for instance, understanding the scale and the capacity of the bags, which might not be very easily understood in like a still life shot. So yeah, I think there's a lot happening in this space again, and these technologies are really transformative and transforming the way we shop as well.
Yeah, I love those use cases. Thanks so much for sharing and bringing up virtual try-ons, because again, as we were talking about fit models, and there's a lot of fit issues within the space. And this is a solution for that. It is a pain point. And then it also, as it ties back to sustainability. So I think that's great. And I would love for each of you with your closing points to just touch on, whatever last points you want to make, but also there's been this issue around AI that's come up, data ownership that's come up, sustainability. How do we keep human first principles at the forefront? With the advancements that we're seeing in AI, with the issues that could arise in an environment such as a metaverse where there's anonymity, but then you could be whatever you want and whoever you want. So how do we keep these human first principles at the forefront as we move forward in this evolving space?
I'll
Closing statement. What would you like?
My closing statement would be the following. It's our responsibility as companies, no matter what size, whether they're startups, whether they're, growth stage, large corporations, it's our duty to be educating the public, telling them about owning their data, being very transparent with them. It starts with us to keep those principles at the forefront and to make sure we're educating consumers and the public. So
with that, thank you. And then how can people find you if they want to continue to follow you?
Oh, they can follow us on Instagram, it's modern.mirror, and or just go to our website. It's themodernmirror.com.
Thank you. All right. Would like to jump in.
I'm happy to chime in. I really love the way this conversation went. I think that, it's really important to consider these tech, innovations as innovations and think about how we can use them to our advantage. I think the most human-centric approach we can have when we're, looking at these types of technologies is, again, how can we use them to our advantage? How can we take advantage of these technologies so that they don't take advantage of us? And I think that's really the most important distinction to make when we're covering this space. And I just want to echo Nicole's point. I have one thing to add to it. I completely agree. Onboarding is really what needs to be done right now in the space. Our whole mantra right now is really facilitate, educate, and then let them run loose. But the facilitation, really have to make it easy for people to get in the door before we can teach them and, get the space to make sense for people, because it really can change lives. It's beautiful, once these tenets are applied. And you can find out some of the work that we're doing at cashlabs.io, or you can look me up. I write for a bunch of publications and Vogues and places, David Cash 888. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
And to chime in on what David and Nicole just said, I completely agree with everything said. And I just feel that the metaverse and everything online can be an extension of your true self, and that maintain your uniqueness no matter what. And don't compare yourself to everyone else online, and just go in there, be bold, make sure you own it, and educate yourself too. Absolutely, us as the leaders and the companies that are working and managing and bringing these platforms to life, we definitely have a first responsibility to educate, but the consumer, the models, everyone else needs to educate themselves too, and enjoy it. The times are changing, so be with the wave instead of being drowned by the wave.
That's right. And it's True Management where they can find you, follow you.
At True Model Management, on social, we're at TRUE Model, MODEL, and then MGT. And my name's Dale Noel, DALE. NOELLE underscore true if you're looking for me on social.
Thank you so much, Roxandra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I echo what my other panel participants have mentioned, and I would like to also mention that I think diversity is very important, not only when offering possibilities for avatars, but also when thinking about the creators, so the people behind this form of art, really. I think also it's just something to remember that we are living in a time where these 3D technologies are enabling the fashion value chain across the board, even before products are making their way into the metaverse. So they're obviously reducing the product development cycle and the need for physical prototyping, and allowing creators to do their work quicker, better, and more sustainably. So I think this kind of transformation is just something that we're super happy to embrace and enjoy the ride, really.
Right. I love it. And then how could the listeners, viewers find you, to follow you, stay in touch?
So the viewers can find me on LinkedIn, of course. We also have, as mentioned, we recently launched a Farfetch Open Innovation Group on LinkedIn, which we invite everyone to follow. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for all the amazing questions as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Digital Fashion Week. Dale, Nicole, Roxandra, David, appreciate all of you. I'm Nova Lorraine, your moderator for this event, and it's been an absolute honor to share the stage with all of you and share these insights.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful, impassioned conversation, from creativity to IP and everything in between. I really so very much appreciate this range and diversity of opinions and experience that you all brought to this. So thank you so very much. I look forward to seeing you all at some other events in the very near future. So thank you again for your contribution.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.